The summary of this entire story is simple yet devastating. David's case, which had already sent shockwaves through his community after he was accused of unaliving his girlfriend Celeste, has now taken a darker and more dangerous turn after his closest friend made a discovery inside his home and reported it directly to the police. A discovery that could lock David away for life if the bloodstains found on his clothes are confirmed to be Celeste's. What began as a tragic story of a young couple's downfall has now spiraled into one of betrayal, evidence, and the kind of unraveling drama that seems pulled straight from a true crime documentary, but is painfully real in every way. Because this isn't just gossip. It's an actual case hanging on the edge of a test result that could determine whether David ever sees the outside world again. David's life before all this was already complicated, filled with whispers of arguments, jealousy, and a crumbling relationship with Celeste, but none of that compares to what is happening now. His arrest had been dramatic enough. The images of him being led away in cuffs burned into the minds of his neighbors and anyone who had followed the tragic story. But everyone believed it was still possible that the case was circumstantial. After all, the prosecution had emotion, motive, and suspicion on their side, but they didn't have an airtight piece of evidence that connected David directly to the crime scene. That gap left his defense attorney some room to maneuver, and his supporters, few though they were, still clung to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, David was not the man everyone thought he was. And then came a moment that changed everything. His closest friend walking into his home, finding something so incriminating it was impossible to ignore, and taking it straight to the authorities. Please do not forget to like this video, share and subscribe to this channel if you want more updates like this. Thank you. Now, let's get back into the video. Imagine the weight of that moment. This wasn't a random neighbor, not a nosy stranger, but someone who had shared life with David, someone who had eaten with him, laughed with him, and known his secrets. For that person to turn around and essentially deliver evidence that could end his life as a free man is both powerful and devastating. The story goes that the friend, perhaps curious or maybe compelled by conscience, went into David's house after his arrest. The police hadn't yet swept the entire place. Sometimes cases move too quickly, and homes aren't immediately sealed up. That oversight became critical, because when the friend entered, he claimed to see clothing stuffed away, drenched in something dark and unmistakable: blood. It wasn't just a stain or a small mark. It was enough that the friend reportedly felt sick to his stomach, realizing the enormity of what he discovered. He didn't hesitate. He took it to police, knowing what it could mean, knowing it could be the final nail in David's coffin. The idea of friendship crumbling in such a way is heartbreaking. People began debating immediately. Was the friend a hero or was he a traitor? Some argued that morality demanded he report what he saw. After all, if Celeste's blood really was on those clothes, then justice demanded truth over loyalty. Others, though, whisper about betrayal, saying that even if David was guilty, a true friend wouldn't have delivered him up like that. Not when the system already had its claws in him. But that debate, as heated as it is, pales in comparison to the actual legal significance of the discovery. Because while people argue about loyalty, prosecutors salivate over the possibility of hard forensic evidence. Blood speaks. Blood tells stories. Blood ties the suspect to the victim in a way that motive and gossip never can. For David, the timing couldn't have been worse. He had barely been adjusting to life behind bars. His first days marked by confusion, fear, and desperation, and now he learns that his own friend's actions might seal his fate. Imagine sitting in that cell, replaying the choices you made, wondering if the people you once trusted most are the same ones pushing the walls and tighter around you. That sense of paranoia alone could break a man before trial even begins. The story you are about to hear isn't about feelings shocking downfalls in music history. The testing of tells how David, once seen as a young rising artist with everything ahead of him to Celeste, ended up standing in front of a judge from speculative to confessing to the unaliving. It turns out to be something else. Celeste and was sentenced to life in prison. For David's own blood from some unrelated injury. Maybe he was never a real monster at all, but rather the shield for someone else. But that uncertainty only adds to the drama. Shadows. Everyone
From the
now
very
waits,
beginning of this tragic
watching
story,
the clock
the air
tick,
was heavy with
waiting for
disbelief.
lab results that could send
Because
David
David was
away
no
for life.
ordinary name.
The
in the industry.
psychology of this moment
He was a type
is
of artist
fascinating
critics
as well.
call the future
Think
sound.
about the friend.
A voice meant to define a generation.
Was he motivated
a creative
by guilt,
who built his career
fear,
on vulnerability,
a sense of
and
civic
soul?
duty?
He was
Or
just in his late
did he
teens
already
when people
believe
started
David
calling him
was
a
guilty
phenomenon, and simply
the
wanted
kind of
to wash
talent
his
that only
hands
comes
of an
around
entire
once in a
affair.
decade.
We may
Yet
never
here
know
he
his
stood in
inner
a courtroom,
motives.
hands
But what we do know,
eyes red,
is that his
lips
actions have become a
trembling,
turning point
confessing
in
to
the
something
narrative.
so dark,
People close to the
so
case say that
disturbing,
prosecutors are
that
now
even the most
building their
hardened
entire
journalists
strategy
could
around
not bring
potential
themselves to
results
write
of
about
those
it
blood tests
without pausing to
preparing
breathe.
arguments.
Please do not
and
forget
lining
to
up
like this
experts
video,
who will testify
share
to
and
the
subscribe
credibility
to
of
this
DNA
channel
evidence.
if you want more updates
Meanwhile,
like this.
David's defense
Thank you.
team scrambles
Now,
to discredit the discovery
let's get back
itself.
into the video.
Questioning
The beginning
whether
of his
the clothes
downfall
were
was
planted,
not sudden,
whether the chain of custody was broken.
It was gradual.
Whether a friend's
Hidden in
testimony
whispers,
can
late
even
night
be trusted
rumors,
given the
encrypted
intense
posts
media
online.
pressure swirling around
When
the
Celeste,
case.
a 15-year-old
the case now
full of life,
teeters on the
disappeared,
edge of becoming
her
a
family's
spectacle.
desperate search
Media
collided with
outlets
David's
have already
glittering
begun
world
camping
tours and
outside the
interviews.
courthouse, and the
Ready to
intersection
report
with
the
the
moment
moment
to
destroy
Tesla
both
both.
are released.
At first, nobody
Inside the
suspected
jail,
him.
other
After
inmates
all,
reportedly
why would
taunt
they?
David.
David was
calling
adored
him
by
done
millions,
for,
his
and
fan
reminding
base
him that the
treated him like he
walls
could
are
do no
closing
wrong.
in.
He
His
tries to
music
act
painted
tough
him as someone
to
sent
maintain
to
his
pain,
composure,
not the
but
cause.
even
of
the
it.
strongest
But the
facade
night
can't
authorities
cover the
discovered
truth.
Celeste's body inside
David's
the
freedom
trunk
now
of a car
hangs by a
linked
thread.
him.
And
The
that
narrative
thread may
began
snap
after
the second
a lab
violently.
technician says.
What followed was
The
chaos.
blood belongs to Celeste.
Social media explosions.
That possibility
Fans
makes
defending him
every
blindly.
hour feel like
Critics
a lifetime.
dissecting his lyrics
On the
for
other
hidden
hand,
confessions.
Consider
And
what
police moving
happens
quickly
if the
to
results
detain
don't
him.
match Celeste.
When he appeared in court
that
for the first
scenario
time,
would be
the
explosive
scene
in a
was
completely
surreal.
different
The courtroom
way.
was packed
It would
wall
mean
to
that
wall
David's
with
friend
reporters.
inadvertently became
Cameras
a messenger
flashing
of false
every
hope for
second.
prosecutors.
The quiet
Giving
sobbing
them
of
what they
Celeste's
thought was
mother
their
smoking
echoing
gun
over the clicking
only to have
shutters.
it blow up in their
David
faces.
walked in wearing a
In that
simple gray
situation,
suit.
David's
nothing
defense could
ordinary
actually
about the
gain
aura he
momentum.
carried. Using the
It was
failed
the
evidence
aura of a
argued
fallen
that the
state's
star,
entire case
someone
is
too young
built
to be
on
facing
shaky
life in
ground.
prison.
They
Yet
could
too
claim
guilty
the
to
arrest
ever
was
walk
rushed.
free again.
The narrative
The
unfair,
prosecution
and
evidence
wasted no
insufficient.
time.
David,
They laid out
in that
every
unlikely
detail
turn,
meticulously.
could even
The
walk
timeline
free
of
sooner
Celeste's
than
disappearance.
expected.
But
The
that is a
digital
less likely
footprints,
outcome.
The testimony,
At least according to
the
the
murmurs
murmurs
from law enforcement and
discovery of her body,
already seem
and the
convinced
fact
that
that
the
her
blood
DNA
will
will
traces
match.
of her belongings
They
were
don't want to
linked
say it
directly
outright until
back to
science
David's
confirms
car.
it.
But
The
their
evidence was
confidence
crushing,
alone has made David's
almost
supporters
suffocating.
nervous, and as
His
it piled
enemies
up,
smug.
whispers
The tragedy
turned to
of the
gas in
story,
the gallery.
is
David
that beneath
sat
the legal
there, head
drama,
down, beneath the
knuckles
spectacle,
white,
and
lies
for a
are
long
raw and
time
undeniable
undeniable
pain
anyone
in
in
the
Celeste's
eye.
loss.
His defense
Her
team
name
tried
has become
desperately
secondary
to
in
shift the
headlines,
narrative,
drowned out by the
suggesting
focus on
possibilities
David's
of
downfall,
coercion, or
for those
even
who
framing.
loved her.
But
The
none of it
story
would stand
isn't
the
about
weight of the
evidence
truth or
that
trials.
eventually poured from David's own lips. Because one afternoon, midway through the trial, David stood up, asked to address the court, and confessed. The silence that followed was unlike anything anyone had ever experienced. Total, absolute silence, as if the air itself was too stunned to move. He admitted he was the one responsible for Celeste's death, though his words carried a strange ambiguity, a shadowy undertone that suggested layers beneath the surface. "I did it," he said, voice breaking. "But not everything is what it seems." His confession, though damning, left more questions than answers. Why did he do it? What pushed a promising young star into such darkness? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, was he protecting someone else? There were whispers in the courtroom, whispers that have since followed him into the prison where he will spend the rest of his life. Some say David took the fall to shield someone close to him, someone powerful enough to manipulate the narrative,